Hey guys, it's Gideon. Today's video is about Final Fantasy XIV. The goal here is to show some B-roll footage of some PvE and PvP content so you have something to watch and talk about what I really love and loved about the game, and then also why Dawntrail just isn't doing it for me and why I'm not playing it, at least for now. What I love the most about the game is absolutely the story, which seems a little weird since it's an MMORPG, but it is hands down, if not the best. It's like a top 5, top 3 story for me across all the expansions. And that's comparing them not to MMORPGs, but even single player RPGs that I've played. I don't want to spoil anything. It's worth playing through just to experience the story. Sometimes parts of the game can be a little bit drawn out, but I even like the original A Realm Reborn story. That one moves a little bit slower, but Heaven's Word is really good. I think Stormblood was really entertaining. Shadowbringers was amazing. That was a wild ride. And some people said they didn't like Endwalker as much. I liked Endwalker as much as Shadowbringers for sure. Maybe even a little bit more, but maybe that was just recency bias as well. Dawntrail, the most recent expansion that's been out for a bit now, is a different story, but I'm going to save that for later. The second thing that I really love is the class fantasy. This is the first game where I didn't immediately reach for a paladin, and I think that's because I typically like playing the big two-hander retribution style paladin versus the sword and board tank role, and the Dragoon really fit that for me. The idea of wielding this massive spear, leaping into the air, and you're harnessing the power of a dragon without letting it overcome you was actually really cool class fantasy to me. But other than just class fantasy, the jobs, as they're called instead of classes in Final Fantasy XIV, what I really liked is you can play all of them on one character. Now you can make alternate characters if you want, but that's part of the reason why I think they call them jobs, is because you can learn other jobs and then level them separately. So you don't have to redo achievements and redo quests and redo story. I can be a white mage healer, I can be a paladin tank. When a new job like the Reaper comes out, I can try it and I can level them all separately. So it gives you other interesting things to do and lets you replay content and dungeons and such as other jobs, and then you can always switch back to your main job or even switch main jobs. So I think that's really cool. Next, I want to talk about the combat, which I actually enjoy. Now you might think, hey, isn't this I'm picky about combat guy and I hear complaints about Final Fantasy XIV? So the one thing I'll say about Final Fantasy XIV's combat is sometimes you don't get the immediacy of the button press, but it's not like some massive delay or something like that. It's hard to almost quantify, but it's like a millisecond different than maybe like classic WoW, and that you get used to it. If it was really jarring, I wouldn't be able to play it. So people complain about a tiny bit of lag there. The other big issue for people is they're used to potentially the global cooldown from World of Warcraft. There's a longer global cooldown for Final Fantasy XIV of 2.5 seconds, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. But they have a lot of abilities that are called OGCDs in the community, off global cooldown. So the idea is you have part of your rotation is activating different abilities in a particular order and then weaving in the off global cooldown abilities. So when you're first starting out, it can feel a little slow, ability, and you're auto attacking in between. But as you build up your toolkit, it's ability, off global, ability, off global, ability, and you kind of get into this rhythm, and it actually feels pretty good. I do want to talk about the PvP in the game. I know it's not known as a big PvP game, but the PvP is actually good. My little note to myself here on what to say is PvP is actually fun, so shut up haters. I think the Crystal and Conflict mode, that's the 5v5 matches where you're kind of pushing a crystal across the map, is really well done. I also think that some of the larger maps where there are more players, which are called front lines, are also really fun too. And those are capture point objective type PvP matches, similar to a battleground in WoW is probably the closest thing that I can think of. The only thing that's really controversial with the PvP system, and I personally think it's really well done and like it, is when you enter a PvP mode, and there's a kind of a practice area too with target dummies and stuff like that, gear is normalized. You have access to play any job, aka class, that you have unlocked and reached level 30 on, and you have a small subset of your abilities. So let's say you've got like 8-ish buttons to press in PvP, where you could have 20 plus buttons in PvE. And I think they did a really good job of capturing the essence of each of the jobs when playing them in PvP. They feel iconic, but it lets you focus on the timing and the skill and the situationals of the PvP gameplay, more so than this big building crescendo of a rotation at the right moment in a boss fight. So it's something you have to play and try to experience, and not everyone loves it, but I really dig it, and I'm someone who loves to PvP in every MMO I play. One final thing I love that I would regret not talking about, even just real briefly, is the community. The community in Final Fantasy XIV is unbelievably friendly, unbelievably helpful. I would say it's right up there with that of Guild Wars 2. And that does have a lot of value in a game where you're in a shared world. I want to pivot a little bit now and talk about not necessarily what I don't love, but why I'm not playing Dawntrail right now. And I do intend to come back to it. I think a new beginning for a game of this size and scope after finishing a 10-year story arc and trying to start new, not from zero, but effectively starting a new story from zero, that's a tall order. That's really tough. It can feel a little off-putting to be on this new adventure where you kind of feel like you're the side character in someone else's story for the first time, and your group of companions that you've built up over the years are off aiding someone else. Now, I do understand that this is some world building and kind of prepping for launching the next 10-year story arc potentially, but it just didn't grab me in. The writing in the past has been so good. This is just falling a little flat for me in Dawntrail. So my intent here is when the next expansion is announced, if it looks really interesting to me, like there's a lot of potential there, I'll probably wait till a couple months or a month before, and then I'll just power through the Dawntrail story and all the subsequent patches and those little story arcs that build up to the next expansion. So with all that said, I definitely will be back. It's a game I loved playing as my main game for almost 2.5 years, if not longer. It took me to get through all the content as a casual player. I think that the director of the game, Yoshi P, did and continues to do a phenomenal job running the game. I think it's a game that really respects your time. I think it's a game that doesn't have pay to win. It's just not a story that's engaging to me at the moment. And I'm excited to see where they take things from here. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And until the next one, peace.